It's familiar, this old feeling is similar to the feelings you feel at the poles here when it's cold.
It was awesome to be able to collaborate with the Burners on this track because, you know, Dan, I've played music with you and I've played music with Choi pretty much as long as I've been rapping, as long as I've been writing songs. We've been collaborating, be it on stage or in the studio or whatever. And Dan, you've been one of my favorite collaborators all through that time. But we'd never done anything with the Burners. The Burners was always that separate kind of unit that I had loved watching as a spectator, but had never collaborated with. So the fact that you guys kind of were into the idea of collaborating and putting something down was awesome. And yeah, I kind of love that as well. You guys love to represent the outer layers of what the Burners is about. The Burners is such a a heavy and genuine kind of funk trio, and you're so deeply rooted in that kind of world. But what I love is that you kind of go, yeah, but that world extends to hip hop, it extends to, you know, soul, jazz, it extends to all these different areas. And when you go and do those things, you do it really authentically as well. So
yeah, we were talking about the movement between rappers rapping over beats off a sampler or a DJ and moving to the live band representation of the art form too. We like to flip that a little bit in the Burners from time to time to kind of look at, okay, so tracks that were sampled and then made into kind of hip hop tracks, and then we sample as a live band in that style as well, and play that back as a live thing, you know.
I kind of love that flip, and kind of working in reverse and going, okay, that's a fly hip hop track. Let's interpolate it as the Burners and as this live band. And I think what's cool is, like, on our track, it doesn't just sound like a funk song. It sounds like a hip hop song, but it also sounds completely in line with the Burners aesthetic as well.
There's just one thing that you'll do today. There's just one thing that you'll do.
JT.
Hi.
It was so great to have you on this track too.
Yeah, it was a total delight to tickle the edges.
Can you tell us a bit about your approach to that track that was quite complete? How did you go about finding the gaps? Because all the interjections and the kind of support that you put in vocally, they just elevate the whole thing. So I was just wondering how you kind of go about that. How did you approach that?
I guess, like, if I think about people that have inspired me to play around on top of or lead songs, I was just thinking, like, Brother Ali and Black Alicious in the earlier days would have these incredible vocalists that would come in and kind of wouldn't dominate, but have this presence and lift moments, and do it in ways that felt, it brought just this almost like an ephemeral quality to a track, and that really excites me. I love thinking about songs as theatre. And I guess when I came in and I heard that track, I kind of thought, well, you know, if you're giving to me this raw, just the track itself, I could go to town. Like, it's just such solid music, right? The structure's all there. And then you have my favorite MC doing his thing on it. And I'm kind of like, well, what do I do here? Well, like, where do I touch this? You know? And yeah, I just followed my gut. It's something that's just, I guess, been tuned over, I'm going to say 20 years of singing across genres. So I'm definitely a slashy when it comes to, and I think we all are. I think it's the industry that makes us think we're one or the other. But I like to play across genres and intermix them. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, visual artist as well, and I apply the same logic and approach to my singing.
The other thing that I think it's interesting to note about that sesh that you did, Janie, was that the material pretty much ended up exactly where you just dropped it. You're like, oh, I'm just going to try this idea. And we're like, yep. And then you're like, oh, and maybe a bit of
Yeah, I remember.
And we were just like,
I remember the cold,
right?
cold, 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 cold. You're like, whoa, 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 do that again.
Just like,
Yeah.
that's good. Let's do 5 more layers of that. That sounds great. Through your performance, you were pushing the momentum of the track just from the start to the end of the session, which was really good. So it was actually like quite a quick session, I think.
Yeah, it was a quick one. Yeah.
And then
I like playing before, after the beat, in the beat, over the beat, trying to speed it up, trying to make it slow down somehow. Like that all excites me, the nerdery of that.
yeah.
Such a powerful addition to the track. We could have looked at that as like being a whole complete song. We probably couldn't have guessed how much like some extra vocal layers from you would change the song and really lift it. And it's just because you just found those pictures that you could put on it throughout the whole thing. I was going to ask you about that. Like, do you feel like when you're in the studio, do you kind of see it? Like, is it visual for you what you're doing?
For sure. Yeah, I'm even characters. Like I have names for them.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Hey, yo.
I went in to work with you, Dan. I can't remember what we were working on. We've worked on a few things, over that time, but I walk in and Dan's like, oh, I'm just working on our track. Like I'm working on The World Is Cold. I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, got Jane Tyrrell to do some vocals. I was like, oh, snap. That's awesome. Like, and because in my mind, I wasn't expecting like an extra kind of vocal feature, but then when he played it, I was just like, oh my God. Like,
yeah,
this is insane. I think it's really cool because what I'm doing on the track, I really love it, but it's a little bit heady. It's
Fire.
pretty, yeah. Well, thank you, but it's like it's not
pretty intense, right?
Yeah, it's not taking any prisoners. I'm not
Relentless.
yeah, it's relentless, and
Yeah.
I let the inspiration be that funk soul like live band throwback era kind of thing. That's why in the first verse there's the band is shouting out.
Oh yeah, I love that. Reminds me of Boo Bap days and stuff like that. Yeah.
Because I had spent years watching Melbourne funk and soul bands like the Bamboos, like Cookin On 3 Burners, like the Putbacks, and they're some of my favorite moments is when the band, especially a band that doesn't have a vocalist, all of a sudden gets vocal and just shouts some vocals out. And it's like a nod to older eras, like looking at the JBs under James Brown and like the band's talking, and they're yelling out. I just think that's cool as shit when that happens. And that actually was what started the whole song for me, like in terms of the lyrics. I was like, I want to get the band like shouting out some cool shit.
And you're shouting it out because of the lyric and what it's about. It needs to be shouted out.
The world is cold. The world is cold. So
I don't even like Zoom, but this is made me so happy to see you guys tonight.
There's just one thing we all do, just go and set a piece of the world ablaze and play it cool while you chilling in the flames.